That, and I don't like the fact that they also brought back the Atmosphere levels, which I hated the Atmosphere. I fucking hated it in Wrath of Cortex. I don't know why they brought that back, but they also made it apparent that you could play as Coco and Crunch. It's like, no, you can't. You can play them in special vehicle levels, but you can only play Crash in the actual real levels. The N Sane Trilogy is the first time we ever got a character that was fully playable like Crash that wasn't Crash. And that was just Coco, because Crunch doesn't exist yet. Now, some people want to think that since the N Sane Trilogy released, that that this might be technically a reboot, and any games after it would be considered like actual Crash 4, 5, 6, and there hasn't really been anything confirmed other than the CNK Nitro Fueled, or CNK, CTR, Crash Team Racing Nitro Fueled coming out as a remaster, but it hasn't been confirmed or anything if like Wrath of Cortex is going to get a remaster, or if they're going to go the route where I was talking about Crash Nitro Kart, but now I'm talking about Crash Team Racing. Now with Crash Team Racing getting its own remaster, if they're going to continue the remasters with Crash Bash and Wrath of Cortex and Twinsanity, or if they're going to go for an entirely new game after they're done with the Crash Team Racing Nitro Fueled. Since Crash Team Racing Nitro Fueled is, I believe, also bringing in CNK assets for Crash Nitro Kart to sort of make it a moot point to remake Crash Nitro Kart. So I believe Nitro Fueled is basically a combination of the two, and I'm hoping the kart racing is pretty good, because Crash Nitro Kart's kart racing mechanics were slow, and I didn't like that. That's what I meant by every Vicarious Visions Crash game besides the N Sane Trilogy I've always had some sort of problem with. The speed was too slow, for example, for Crash Nitro Kart. Crash Bandicoot Purple was a terrible attempt at trying to cross over Crash and Spyro in a minigame compilation for the Game Boy Advance, and it just wasn't fun. Crash Nitro Kart, it still looks beautiful even now. If you look at the cutscenes and you look at the environment, it looks beautiful now. Visually, it looks appealing, but the gameplay was definitely not disastrous, but it was definitely slower. It was definitely not as good as Crash Team Racing. The carts didn't feel as responsive, the character interactions were lacking, and overall the acceleration and speed was also dumbed down to a point where I noticed that I could get a lot more enjoyment and actually feel like I was speedy in Crash Team Racing, but in Crash Nitro Kart, unless I boosted a shit ton, I just felt very slow. And I'm sorry for going on a small rant like this. So, we'll get back to the game in a second, but that's basically what I'm talking about. I enjoy talking about stuff that I know about. That's why I guess I'm talking more than usual for one of my Let's Plays, but that's not a bad thing, I hope. Not a bad thing. Just give me 1 second. I need to calm down from that. Okay. Alright. Now we're going to get back to actually playing the game. And my commentary won't go off the rails again. So, yeah, I wouldn't say off the rails. Off topic, rather. But my personal opinion, and again, I will stress my personal opinion, that the last great Crash game was actually Crash Twinsanity, made by Traveler Tales Oxford, who no longer exists, unfortunately. I don't remember how long ago. I think they went under maybe a year or two after Crash Twinsanity came out, but while Twinsanity isn't, I would say it's the greatest Crash game outside of the PS1 era, for the PS2 and Xbox and GameCube, but I would not call it the greatest game of all time. It has bugs, it has problems, it's really, really short, I beat Crash Twinsanity within a few hours, and I think I could get to 100% within a day. For what's there, clearly heart went into it. Alright. The humor is great, the story for what we got is great, though it's significantly reduced from Crash Bandicoot Evolution, which was the original concept they wanted to go with, which would have been Crash's first and so far only attempt at making an RPG. And he would have gotten a little pet called Floofy. I think that's the name, Floofy. But Twinsanity, again, for what we got, was pretty good. But there were things like some things were cut so late in development that there's a cutscene in the game that refers to a device it's never actually seen, called the vice versa reversa device, I think. That's what it's called. It's basically something that the evil twins would have used in context with the story, but I don't know how exactly it would have worked. But it's still mentioned in one of the cutscenes because the cutscene was already finished and rendered, and they didn't have enough time to actually go and remove it, because I believe Crash Twinsanity was made on a time limit of 6 months, maybe a little bit more than that. I think the general thing I remember is 6 months, but don't take my word for fact. This is just me going off memory while I play the N Sane Trilogy in front of you right now. Darn, Miss 6, because I don't have a blue gem. I missed 6 boxes. But anyway. And the N Sane Trilogy is great, though the Twinsanity game I would love to have. On remastered. That'd be great. Oh yeah, I switched to Coco as soon as I get a level that I have to be Crash. Yeah, that was gonna be my thing. I was distracted by the rant the small rant I went on. Excuse me. That you can play as Coco in this, and that's what I was gonna do as soon as I unlocked her. After the first boss of Crash 1 and Crash 2, you could play as Coco fully, minus the vehicle sections that require Crash and boss fights. That's what I was planning on doing, is mostly playing as Coco. And then riding my hog. I'm riding the hog. I think I'm gonna name you Peppa. You're probably a female hog. Peppa. Oh no, well, that was Uncle Johnny. Oh no, Terrence. Perfect. Yeah, with the free DLC, which was originally a $3 DLC, but they decided to revert it to free, I guess, when they released the multi-console for Stormy Ascent, which was originally a level that was not in Crash 1 because it was removed for being too hard, but there was a fully playable demo, or there was a fully playable level I think you could get if you hacked the original game. And I know there was a beta version of Crash 1 that was given to or unearthed by an old friend of mine that when I was on Crash Mania, the still unofficial website and forum for Crash Bandicoot that called Hack, H-A-C-C. I believe he found a playable beta that had Stormy Ascent in it, which very clearly Vicarious Visions is aware of, since they did do a DLC that reintroduced Stormy Ascent officially for the first time into the Crash 1 environment. And even when you start a new game, you have the option to immediately go to it to play it, because it's a optional DLC level that doesn't count towards your completion. It does make your percentage go up a little bit higher, but it's not required for 100%, which is great, because I don't like Stormy Ascent. It's really hard. I don't like Slippery Climb, and Slippery Climb is already pretty hard. It would be lovely if you let me get that box. I'm Coco. And I believe Coco is, for the most part, she's purely cosmetic. But I believe some speedrunners found out that her jumps are higher and she runs a bit faster in Crash 2 and Crash 3 with the Speed Shoe power-up, aka Crash Dash, which still don't know why they renamed that, personally. Okay. And that's my Aqua Mask. But I don't really know, because this is not going to be a 100% playthrough. I'm not going to be doing 100%, and I'm not going to be doing a speed playthrough. But that's what I heard and read about, even on back on the PS4 when it was exclusive for a year, that Coco was actually the best character to use if people wanted to speedrun. Meaning the first 5 levels of Crash 1 and Crash 2 probably couldn't be properly speedrun, or they could, it would just be a bit more difficult. That, yeah. Until they unlocked Coco, and then Coco would be the character that they would go for. And I have found a shortcut to get by a few of these. Coco's pretty dynamic, aerodynamic for carrying a laptop around. I didn't want to get burned, so... Yeah, I'm not going to be able to get the gem here either, because for some reason the early levels really emphasized using the colored gems. I prefer the approach that Crash 2 and Crash 3 ended up doing, where you can get majority. I mean, I didn't really care. I had an Aqua Mask. There, you can get majority of the early gems without needing a color gem. Like, they still had the early on levels that had the requirements for needing to go those routes to get a gem, but it wasn't every single like level. I think I've only got maybe 3 gems so far. I think. Let's see. Yeah, only 3 gems so far out of 26. Oh no, I don't know if this life was worth it. Oh god, no it wasn't. Oh, I'm stuck climbing back up. I also believe that with Crash 1, they added the ability to hold X to time your jumps better, because I remember distinctly that the PS4 version was probably the hardest version because of Crash 1 and its weird new jump mechanics. It's the universal jump mechanic. Well, jump mechanic was made universal between all 3 games. That way each game felt similar in terms of gameplay, and the fact that they didn't have to change up the gameplay too much between versions